And you can take it away, Josh and Sarah.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today at the SUNY OER Summit. I'm Joshua Kornblatt, and my colleague Sarah Wyman at SUNY New Paltz is here as well. We're introducing you all to an IITG funded project called Sustainability Learning for Action and Community Engagement and Earthrise Commons. So our topic today, oops, I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. Let's see. One moment here. I apologize. I'm having a clicked on the wrong button here. There we are. Slideshow. Uh, Thank you. Sorry about that. Our topics today are OER, sustainability pedagogy. So really taking a special focus on sustainability pedagogy as it relates to open educational resources, how we created our OER book anthology, how we're creating a digital learning commons. Um, as I mentioned before, Sarah Wyman is here. She's an associate professor of English at SUNY New Paltz. I'm Joshua Kornblatt. I'm an associate professor of graphic design at SUNY New Paltz. And we invite you all to introduce yourselves in the chat while I do this introduction. We want to mention that this is not the old textbook model that's expensive and always being updated. We've created a textbook that is more organic and generative. It's mainly aimed at higher education instructors, but many of the learning activities are being adopted for K through 12 educators. We're finding that the first section of our anthology of more philosophical chapters works really well in the higher education classroom for student reading and discussion. We have discussed the following questions based on these readings, such as what are we trying to sustain, how to be in a community in ways that empower young people and promote care, how to rethink human relationships with their environment and the natural world, which we think of in terms of human ecology, which is how we shape and are shaped by our environments, the natural and the built environments around us. This morning, we will demonstrate how this project came to be as a model for others to imitate and as an invitation to participate and contribute to this learning commons. We've created an OER anthology of sustainability pedagogy and an interactive website linked to all 45 chapters from our book, plus Creative Commons licensed lesson plans and syllabi that people around the world can adapt and adopt for their own purposes. I'll be giving you a tour of the website in a little while and the learning models that are collected here. But we want to also kind of go back through the timeline of this project. First, the print book anthology is a big one. It's 180,000 words, and it's sustainability learning for action and community engagement to be published by Palgrave Macmillan Springer Nature in 2025. The process for making the book open access is mainly due to getting a SUNY IITG OER Impact Grant for 2024 and 2025, and also for this cycle as well. That supported us to remake this print book, which would have been originally priced at around $128, into an open educational resource that will be available on SpringerLink, which has 285 million annual views, and to also create a Learning Commons prototype to make the chapters of the book actionable with teaching materials and resources that can be remixed through Creative Commons. We also received generous support from Primary Source, a Massachusetts-based educational nonprofit for this endeavor. So I want to give just a really lightning quick tour of the prototype, just so that you can see the idea, because many of you guys are certainly familiar with an open access book, particularly ones on SpringerLink, because that is a popular platform. So this is a prototype that we are working from. And we have a landing page that introduces the Learning Commons and also links to the open access book that is forthcoming. If you go to the Explore navigation menu here, you can see that there is going to be a search bar up here and then a number of filters for grade level, location, subject area, and then different frameworks such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the IKEDA framework, which is learn, reflect, and empower, and the inner development goals, which are being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. We have different types of content, articles, book chapters, lesson plans, and then most importantly, people, because we want this to be not just a collection of resources, but really at least have a feeling of a community hub that people can be a part of, even if it isn't a social media app. So I'm going to show you a sample here. These are two book chapters, Finding and Working with Wild Clay by Anat Shifton at SUNY New Paltz, and then also Campus as a Living Lab by Kara Belinsky. So if I go to Kara's chapter, you can see that there are a number of tags here, which will be curated, and that allows an additional level of search. You can then view the chapter. There'll be an introduction to Kara, the author, and you'll also be able to see the remixes of the shareable materials that Kara would be providing in addition to the book chapter here. We have a little metaphor of record players here. So these are different versions they can go to and see who has downloaded her material and then remixed and re-uploaded to our site. So this is showing, 5 different versions, for example. This section has Kara's chapter. You'll be able to download the chapter as a PDF or view it directly on SpringerLink and read it there. There'll also be related resources so that you can follow along with the chapter. Her chapter is about bird watching on campuses. And one thing that she wants students to note is the biodiversity of birds as it relates to tree canopies. So this is something that students do at SUNY New Paltz, but it can be done on any campus and at any grade level. And here are some tools that help you do it. A data sheet and the Merlin Bird app, for example. And then down below are project remixes submitted by educators who accessed Kara's chapter and her lesson plan, and then post a remix of it. We also have a call to contribute to different projects up above here. The next feature here is a table of contents. So this is where you can browse the book. And we also will have the contents available here as well in these accordion menus. So many of our contributors are artists, and we have some musicians as well. The person who wrote the foreword for our book, Libby Roderick at the University of Alaska at Anchorage, is a folk musician. So this platform also allows us to play music and do interactive material that isn't possible in a book format. We're looking at adding joy to the book as well, and including ecological playlists that you can play as part of your user experience on this to really make this kind of a joyful and delightful experience. That's a really quick preview of our project. I'm going to navigate back to the slide deck here. And just to show you another example of the advantages of digital platform in sustainability work, we often do land acknowledgement. And we are speaking to you from the ancestral lands of the Lenni and Lenape peoples and the Delaware peoples. The criticism of a land acknowledgement is often that it's very surface level and the students don't learn more about the cultures and the peoples that we're acknowledging. On a digital platform, like this is a simple link, just to show you an example. This interface is called Native Land, and you can go here and I can search for a particular location, New Paltz, New York, and explore a map and learn about the territories, the languages, the treaties, and go to contact local nations to learn more about the peoples here. So I think that this Native Lands project shows how you can take something that's maybe just mentioned and make it a deeper and richer experience for people. Okay, so this is a little bit of our agenda, just so you know. We just did the land acknowledgement, a little bit of an introduction. We will have some a little bit more interaction here, a little bit more background on our project and where it came from at SUNY New Paltz. We want to know where you see yourself on this journey, and share our pedagogical approach, and show you the current development of the website based off of the prototype, and some sample learning activities as well, and invite you to join us. Okay, so we have this warm-up activity that links to a Google Doc. And our question is, which image aligns with your thoughts today on sustainability education? So you can write your name under the image on the Google Doc and add a comment. And feel free on a separate piece of paper or document to write a sentence or two to explain your choice. So this is a link to the Google Doc that takes you here. And we have a series of images, a light bulb, an image of Hong Kong, some plants and hands, a community speaking event, a fishing painting from the Wampanoag peoples, a tree person, a bear family, a 16th century map of the Americas, Grand Canyon National Park, uh, a heat pump system, a drawing of the forest, a political demonstration.
Josh, it says that the doc has restricted access.
Oh no. Okay, let me fix that.
I put it in the chat.
Oh, not sure. I have anyone with the link can edit. Let's see. Let me put it in as well. Okay, I just put it in the chat. Can people access it?
It's in the chat, but it's not accessed yet. So
No, the
maybe you
new
could-
one is working.
Oh, it's working.
Josh one, Sarah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, great. Thank you, Genevieve. I should mention too, we have in attendance, I was going to mention her a little bit later, but Genevieve Flynn, who's an English master's degree student at SUNY New Paltz, who is what we call the gardener for the site. She's the editorial intern for this whole project where we've transferring a lot of content and creating new content for the platform. So I'm just kind of scrolling through just to show you that these images are really varied. And we'll just take out a few minutes here to do this. Oh,
Josh, can you make
Thanks,
sure that
Becky.
it's unlimited access in the link? Oh yeah, it looks like it's working.
yeah, everyone should be able to edit. And don't overthink it, of course. Just go with your intuition. Some things might really call out to you, and that's what we want to just get a sense for. And we'll just do this up till 11 a.m. here. So really just kind of go with your gut reaction here. Okay, I'm going to start reading out some responses just to get going here. So we have, I'll start with the chat actually, because I see that Sophia is still writing here. So Tracy Ann said the pick of Hong Kong connects with me. Stormy says that I love the tree person, but I feel like I'm in a perpetual state of feeling like a protester lately. Diane says the tree person and the light bulb with the plant inside. Krista, plants in hands is something that takes a lot of repeat renewal and growth. And like learning, it's repeat growth and renewal. Um, and then Sarah is saying, I hear you about um, Stormy's comment about feeling like a perpetual protester lately. Um, the light bulb comment, we have Corey. I think this represents both humans and technology and natural elements. We need to find a balance that works for both. Sophia says that this feels like a place of growth, but also it is contained. I feel that we need to do more to improve. Genevieve, the light bulb is acting like its own ecosystem or eco world in a way. It makes me think of innovation and nature, eco-friendly technology or sustainable energy. Um, Tracy expands on her Hong Kong connection. The development of the city has so many good points and, of course, so many negatives as well. And Genevieve is also noting the community speaking event as well. Okay. So, Sarah, do you have any thoughts? Like, what do you notice from the collection of comments here? Or it could be really anybody in the chat. This is really an open exploration here. We wanted to kind of see where you're coming from because sustainability is a huge term and it means many different things to many people. We've got Kenning saying that the bear family reminds me of who we are fighting for. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So any
I think
insights?
if we just
Yeah.
remember back to COVID and the challenges of having an interactive online experience, it's really nice to hear you all circling around what sustainability could possibly mean because it means so many different things. And that's something that we just accept and manage and work with. We see it as an advantage and a power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And hopefully you can see too that this is something that you can do with students at any level. Um, it's a really open activity. We know that sustainability can be a difficult subject to bring into your classroom at times because it might feel like something extra, or it might feel like you're worried about indoctrinating the students to a particular viewpoint, knowing that they might hold diverse viewpoints. So this is an open activity that is more interpretive. And this is really part of our philosophy of sustainability learning is to make it more open and constructivist to let students discover for themselves what sustainability means. And we think it's a really broad term about harmony and relationships and even peace. Great. Yeah. So thank you for kind of sharing your feedback there. And that kind of leads me back into our main discussion. So one quote that we want to share with you all today is from Dahlia Nasser, who is an English professor at the University of Sydney in Australia. We are really bringing in the arts and humanities into the sustainability conversation through both our book and our learning commons. Dali Nasser says that we know about climate change, mass extinction, pollution, and the rising oceans, but we don't seem to act. Or better, we know, but we don't really know. We know through graphs and numbers, but we don't know in an embodied, visceral way. We know only intellectually, not as whole embodied beings. This reveals that there is a problem with our way of knowing. So she's actually an expert on the Romantics, and A lot of people think of the Romantics as being anti-science, but they actually weren't. They were pro-relationship. And that's why we don't have a STEM model for our book and learning commons, or even a STEAM model, which adds in the arts to the science and technology, engineering and math framework. But we are having a stream model. A stream model, the R is for relationship. Because most science says I'm the knower, and the oak tree, for example, is the object of my knowing. Um, a romantic like Goethe might say, no, the tree is my partner. The tree can also be my teacher. That means I don't just owe truth to other people like I would to a human teacher. I owe careful attention to the oak tree as well. So responsibility isn't just an abstract rule that's floating above us. It emerges inside of our relationships between you and the tree and the horse and the river and the cloud, or whatever it is you want to study out in nature. So somebody like Goethe thought that science needs art. Training your eye and your heart through aesthetics helps you see the unity of nature. And when you see unity, you naturally begin to care. So Dalia Nasser calls that romantic empiricism, but it's really about responsibility in seeing and your quest for knowledge. So looking with respect, knowing with care, relating as a partner, and training your perception through art. This is actually also an ethical act. Ethics isn't tacked on at the end, it's built into the way you see the world.
So
This is just,
actually from Josh's chapter.
oh, right, yes. This is from my chapter, kind of expanding on that. So through direct observation and sustained engagement with particular places and creatures, students develop the caring foundation requisite for all conservation efforts. When education begins with wonder and relationship, students don't need to be convinced to care. They discover they already do. This kinship, rooted in wonder and sustained by love, offers our best hope for responding to ecological challenges that threaten all creatures whose fate, in truth, is our own. That's a portion from my chapter in the philosophy section of the book about teaching the wild within and around us. So in practical terms, like a lesson plan based off of this would be about students going outside and actually looking. They can watch a bird, sit under a tree, and walk by the same river. They keep coming back to this place. They notice more and more. They say something like, hey, that bird's nest has changed, or that river is lower today. Over time, something can happen. Without anyone lecturing to them, they start to care and they feel connected. This matters because that caring becomes the foundation for conservation. Wonder leads to relationship, and that leads to responsibility. And we want to emphasize that this can be an amateur form of connection, that everyone needs to be involved in sustainability to an extent. We can't just leave it to experts alone. And our students need to understand that. It needs to be for everyone because obviously the challenges are vast and it's just too vast for experts alone.
So I want to point out that Josh's chapter, one of the wonderful discoveries that we found in this huge collaborative experience with 50 authors is that although we see this project as a guide for educators, we're discovering that more and more of the work is relevant for our undergraduate and graduate students in the classroom. So I taught Josh's chapter on cultivating the wild within in both my graduate and my undergraduate courses in human ecology and environmental literature, and it went over really well. We also have examples of personal ecology in that philosophy section of the book that I've used with my students. One is by Eric Keeling, who's the son of David Charles Keeling, who invented the Keeling curve of global warming as a model of how to write your own personal ecology. Again, as Josh said, how you're shaped by the environment you live in, how you shape that environment in reverse. And also Damon Hill's In the Meantime, In Between Time Type of Love, which is based on Bell Hooks' idea of radical love. My students really responded well to that one. Or Ilarion Merkulief's memoir of fishing with his grandfather up in the Arctic Circle. He's a member of the Aleut Nation. So it turns out that this is in a way a textbook for students. There are parts of it, certainly education students, but also students in other areas could discuss sustainability using some of these readings. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the project came to be. And so we built a community through relationships of trust and by responding to our students' real demands for sustainability related and courses. And Josh is going to put the hidden curriculum in the chat. Next. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, sorry
Next
about that.
slide, Josh.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to put that into the.
I'll actually put it in the chat. I've got it here
Oh, okay, yeah,
if you want.
there we go.
So you can see this is our cohort of faculty fellows mixed with our cohort of sustainability ambassadors. And so we have 30 students a year who are sustainability ambassadors, and that grew out of our faculty learning commons community. In 9 years, we had over 100 people go through our faculty fellows program. And so you can see them celebrating our Eco Lab here. We often start with the Sustainable Development Goals because we see that as a document of collaboration between 193 countries and territories out of only 211 on our planet who came together to agree on these 17 goals. Since we've started adopting the UN SDGs in more and more classrooms across our campus and across the disciplines, this helps us have conversations that the students can bring from one classroom and from one school to another. Next one. So some of the things that make our approach unique are the prominence, as Josh mentioned, of the creative arts and the humanities. Here you can see a mandala we made from our Eco Lab. Reciprocal mentoring structures with a growing cohort of fellows, once a fellow, always a fellow. Integration of student, faculty, and staff into our efforts and events, and a continuous critique of terminology and modes of attention and embodied experience. So as we just tried to demonstrate with the word sustainability, we're continually revisiting our language and the ways we can talk about our strategies for promoting human, creature, and planetary thriving. Always the emphasis is on student-centered active learning. Next.
Okay, so one thing that open educational resources and sustainability as a field have in common is this idea of the commons. And we just want to briefly introduce the idea of the commons from the sustainability perspective and how it overlaps with OER. So the commons are what we share. The commons are shared resources that belong to everyone and also to no one. Examples of commons include the air, the water, parks, knowledge, and the internet. So the question that many thinkers have had is how do we share fairly without destroying what we share? The image I have here are some cultivated rice fields in the Philippines. And this was work done by Nobel laureate Elinor Ostrom, studying how communities work together to share the commons. And what she discovered is actually people can work together pretty well with some good ground rules and other elements in place to do it. So you might be familiar with the phrase "the tragedy of the commons." It's kind of entered the popular culture. The tragedy of the commons was coined by Garrett Hardin, an ecologist, in 1968. And if you can imagine an overgrazed field and too many cows, it means that too many people are using the commons and it gets depleted because people act in their own self-interest. And Garrett Hardin said that freedom in the commons brings ruin to all. Um, uh, the tragedy of the anti-commons, meanwhile, is imagine a same field and it's fenced off with keep out signs. There are too many owners, and for that reason, the content there is underused and it leads to waste. So this is a quote from Michael Heller in 1998. When everyone owns a piece, no one can use the whole. So in a nutshell, Garrett Hardin warned that open access can destroy shared goods. Michael Heller later showed that too much control can also destroy value. One tragedy from too much freedom, and the other is from too little, like we see in pricey and walled-off academic journals where we have all this knowledge out there, but people can't access that knowledge. So Hardin saw a tragedy when he talked about the commons, and Eleanor Ostrom found a community. In the slide deck itself, I have some links to learn more about these topics. And the Creative Commons, meanwhile, built a place to remix material to avoid the tragedy of the anti-commons. They all share the same question, which is how do we share the world well? And in the overlap of all these concerns is how do we balance stewardship of a commons? So this leads to just a quick discussion here. We want to know a little bit more from you all. How do you approach environmental, social, economic, and sustainability topics with your students? And what is your vision, or what is your vision for starting these conversations in the classroom, or it might be in a library, or whatever setting you are working within?
So you can just mention that in the chat.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up the chat here. Yes, Christina is bringing up a major point that the library is a commons. And of course, with with digital books, it opens the opportunity that if you check out that book, other people can still access that book. Stormy says, depending on the ebook license. Yeah, that's an important thing to bring up there. That's the too many owners issue. Yes. Tracy Ann says, I'm really just starting out on this particular path, so I don't have a plan at the moment. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else like to share here in the chat? Or you could also unmute your microphone if that is just quicker for you.
Or we can move on because there are only a few minutes left. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, keep these questions in mind. And one thing we'd like to note is that there isn't obviously one place to begin. You can kind of really begin anywhere. And that's why we find making the digital platform and a book that can be read in any order, valuable. So we also have resources and frameworks that Sarah's going to introduce. There's a comprehensive toolbox, sustainability competencies, and some educational frameworks related to project-based learning.
So the first thing in our toolbox are these competencies, and these are often very helpful if you're working with administrators or trying to set up a sustainability minor to show that thinking about social, economic, and environmental sustainability and working on these projects is a good way to develop 21st century career skills. You can see Katja Brunders and Week developed these ideas that are going to be relevant in all sorts of courses across the curriculum. We also have introduced the inner development goals, which have to do with intrapersonal and implementation actions. I put a link to the basic sustainability frameworks. Josh, you can go ahead. that we have on our website through SUNY New Paltz, and these are going to be developed and linked into Earthrise Learning Commons in a more detailed way. I'm going to give you just an introduction to a couple of the frameworks that we find useful with students to give you a sense of all the different approaches or theoretical lenses you can use to talk about these topics. So next. Here's an example. On the left, we have the One Dish, One Spoon Treaty it's a peace treaty from 1701 between the Anishinaabe, the Potawatomi, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And it was commemorated with this woven wampum belt. So we like the idea that the earliest sustainability framework is really a peace treaty. The concept dates back to 1142 CE, and it states, only take what you need to feed yourself and be well. This is a picture of the bowl on the belt. Always leave some for others to enjoy and keep the dish clean. On the right, you can see the En-ROADS Climate Solutions, which was developed by MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Students can toggle back and forth on the dots to see how their interaction with usage of different energy and other population and other metrics affects the Keeling curve or that global warming prospect. Next. So the principles of deep ecology, of course, are a starting point for a lot of work with sustainability research. Arne Næss was a Norwegian philosopher who emphasized that all living beings have intrinsic value. That's what deep ecology is, that nature is a good, it has value in it. The diversity and richness of life has value, and we need to satisfy our vital needs. But other than that, we don't have the right to reduce the richness of the world for each other or the planet. Probably the most familiar definition of sustainability for you is the Brundtland definition, development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This is another Norwegian. I appreciate that it's a female doctor who came up with this, the Prime Minister of Norway. Next. And then the principles of environmental justice also resonate with students. It's very important to point out that a lot of action for sustainability started in the African American community in the southeast of the United States. Dr. Robert Bullard is one who was a co-author of the Principles of Environmental Justice from 1991 that highlight frontline communities and people of color in particular and how they have been impacted by waste, by other environmental toxins. And this is a very useful PDF that you can find online and discuss with students. Next, we also talk about critical sustainability and the crisis of perception. There's certain notions that we have about humans being separate from nature or culture being separate from nature that perpetuate human inability to care for the planet and to care for each other. So breaking down these binaries, helping students understand what their assumptions are about what they think is normal or what they think is valuable is a really good route into these ethical questions, again, without proselytizing or dictating how other people should feel or think or behave, but helping students find a way to their own understanding of what they prioritize, what they want for their future and for themselves. Next. So UNESCO, as part of the United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals, which has a huge amount of pedagogical resources available for free, Earth Charter is related to the Sustainable Development Goals. It tends to be a little bit more philosophical, spiritual, contemplative. So we also always point our students to that. You can see that sustainability learning outcomes definitely tend to prioritize systems thinking, strategic thinking, futures thinking, self-awareness, and integrated problem-solving kind of approaches, as well as interpersonal competency and how we all can communicate and appreciate each other's cultural differences. Next. So what will our students take away from sustainability-focused learning? If you're dealing with your administrators, you probably need to come up with some really hard facts about why this approach, this interdisciplinary, very generative and creative approach is going to be meaningful and important for your students. Well, we've found this concept of human ecology to be very, very useful when talking about greater planetary and human thriving. We always do that tripartite environmental, social, and economic impacts of climate change and other sustainability challenges. And community collaboration and policy change also are absolutely key to any progress moving forward to confront these challenges. So our students will enhance their capacities in systems thinking and futures thinking and critical thinking. They'll also become more aware, as I said before, of their own priorities and values through critical reflection. Okay, next.
Okay, so this part, really quick, is about how we're applying that ethos to the development of the digital learning commons. One thing that's unique is that this is not a WordPress project. It is a bespoke project, and that's because we are using open access principles from the content of the book to the code that we're using. It has an open source infrastructure that's shareable on GitHub, which is a huge commons for web developers. And our framework for the digital learning commons is also replicable. That means that someone on GitHub can essentially fork the whole project that we're working on and create their own spin-off digital learning commons from what we're producing as well. So the commons philosophy is just throughout the entire project, the content, the design, and the development. And it's also embodying the idea of governance from Eleanor Ostrom and Creative Commons, which means that the work that gets posted to our platform needs to be curated, and people who post to it need to agree upon Creative Commons and a certain set of rules and grounds for doing the work. We also have that gardener or curator, Genevieve Flynn, who's here with us today, an English MA student, working really hard this semester on this content because we're really going for quality first here and making sure what we post is high quality. So we've got this human-centered design philosophy, which means that we're testing things out in kind of small sprints and then getting feedback and then frequently making changes. For anyone interested on the web development side of this, we're using human-readable markdown files, not WordPress. And we have a content management system that is a flat file system. It's called Kirby, like the name Kirby. And that has a user-friendly interface for creating content, editing, and managing. And we also have a static site generator that automatically converts content into a publicly viewable website. Our web developer is Christoph Lalicki, who is a lecturer in the Department of Design at SUNY New Paltz, and also he's earning a master's degree in computer science. And he's been doing a lot of work with our UX designer, Olivia Wilson, an alum of the SUNY New Paltz graphic design program. We mentioned just some specific features. Having a strong search is one of our goals, and taxonomies that people can use. I should have mentioned state standards is really important for K through 12 educators. We want to have taxonomies for that. And universal design for learning, multiple ways to communicate and also to express yourself is really important. I know we only have a couple minutes here, but just to kind of show you really quick, this is the platform itself as it's being developed. So it looks very much like the prototype. It just is still in development. We're missing just some components, and the book, of course, has not been released for publication yet. So the table of contents is grayed out. But this is basically the gist of it. So here is Sarah, and you can learn more about Sarah here. And then Sarah has a lesson plan about artists of the self. And you can go to this lesson plan, and this is using understanding by design as a framework for it. If you're an educator, you can print this out. It'll make a nice PDF, and then you can tailor it to your own school context. We also have links that you can go to as well. Sarah also has some supplementary resources that we're reviewing for Creative Commons, making sure everything fits within a shareable framework. And someone can then join Earthrise and then create a remix from Sarah's Artist of the Self project. So that's kind of like where we're headed, and our book authors, which are 45, we're getting a number of submissions from them and then also from the community. Additional plans for our IATG grant for this year. We are researching making a community inspiration map. Everyone is geo-located on this project if you contribute. So that means you can make a map, and we want to include both the book authors pinned on that and educators who can submit community inspiration projects. So that's something that we're working on currently. It's kind of a 2.0 for the project. I do see that we're headed toward 11:30, so we do have some takeaway questions, but I think we're right up against this. But we just want you to think about how you can create community partnerships and next steps and challenges in any ways that we can help empower you, and to invite you to join our project. If you have a lesson plan, teaching materials, anything you'd like to share from any field that you think fits into the sustainability framework, we'd love to hear from you. The easiest way is just to reach out and email us right now, but we also have a call for submissions as well on the Earthrise Commons website. So thank you all for attending our talk here, and I hope that if you've got questions, you feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to hear from you more.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah and Josh. I'm going to